Good afternoon. It is February 27th, 2018, and I just quit my job. Yeah, I submitted my 2 weeks and I'm done. I've been at this company for about 14 years and I think it's time for me to change and do something different, but the same because it's in the same industry. But yeah, I accepted that job offer and I'll be working for myself from home. It'll be awesome. I'll post more later about that, but I just had to post this in the moment. Yay! 5 years ago today, I said I quit. What a journey this has been. And we're going to get into all of that in this episode. But it's important that I take time to celebrate this journey that has been 5 years. I honestly have just been taking it one step at a time. Every day is different with the same goal in mind. Have fun and enjoy the process every step of the way. And I can't ask for more. Even in the times where I'm struggling or doubting myself, I know I'm still in good hands and that choosing myself will always be the best decision I ever make for myself. Transaction Care, the podcast. Welcome home to the #1 real estate show on the market. I am your host and resident care coordinator, Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lilly. My goal with each episode of Transaction Care is to demystify the business of real estate from my point of view and interviews from other voices within the real estate industry around the world. I'm giving you the keys. There are no gatekeepers here. Head to transactioncarepodcast.com to join my TC community and to be sure you are subscribed to Transaction Care, the podcast, so you know exactly when new episodes are released weekly. I recently asked myself, what is the gift of quitting? Prior to quitting my job, I had no idea what I was going to do next. So a lot of that fear of the unknown kept me from actually taking that leap, actually committing to my decision I had made even a year before it happened. So what is the gift of quitting? For me, it was ultimately figuring out and setting myself up for a new life that involved me making decisions for myself that would better my future, that would make me feel good, that would make me feel free, fulfilled, and to simply just enjoy my life. I think I had spent so much time out of fear at a job I shouldn't have been at so long that God and the universe eventually just forced me out and gave me scenarios and gave me situations that required me to think and act quick. For me, my breaking point was having to choose between being what my ex-boss calls a seat filler or my family. Ultimately, I chose my family. I chose myself, and I will always choose myself and my family over any career, paycheck, person in this world. Prior to quitting, I had made a lot of changes in my life with the intention of eventually leaving my job. But like I mentioned earlier, a lot of my own fears of the unknown really held me back from pursuing life without a safety net. And sometimes even the safety net we think we need is non-existent. It's just not as sturdy as we think it is. Changing my lifestyle, changing my habits granted me that confidence I needed when it was time to leave, when it was time to just say, I'm done. I'm really done, and I'm not turning back. And that involved staying home more, spending less money, saving more money, changing my budget, changing my habits, doing research on what happens after you quit your job. What kind of insurance am I going to need? Am I going to get a different job? Am I going to just live off of my savings for the next few months? What am I going to do? I really had no solid plan, but it was a decision I made 4 months prior that ultimately changed my life forever. It was taking a job interview with a company that reached out to me. I wasn't searching for a job at the time, and I did the interview. That position ended up not being filled by me, but I had such a great time at the lunch. I was with both of the owners and the founders of this specific company, and we just sat there and talked for a good 3 hours. It was amazing, and it was definitely something out of my comfort zone. Like I'd said, it wasn't anything I was in need of. I wasn't searching for a job. They reached out to me. I took the interview, and what I like to call that is just, planting seeds, seeing where it takes me, see where it's going to grow, and if it even grows, if anything comes out of it. Ultimately, it did. Fast forward, I get a call from that same person saying, hey, we're looking for a transaction coordinator to work from home. You would be an independent contractor. And immediately I was just like, oh, wow, this is everything I just asked for. This is everything I need at this moment. How could I not say no? How could I reject my blessing? I scheduled a meeting. I said yes. I told my company that I had been working for that I'm done, I'm quitting, and I'm moving forward. I'm starting my own business. I'm going to try this entrepreneurial life, this solopreneurship life, and see where it takes me. And here we are, 5 years later. I'm still doing it. And I'm laughing because if I really wanted to get into it, this podcast would be 30 hours long. But I don't want to bore you with all the in-between details. That's what the point of having this podcast is for, is to break down this whole process episode by episode and talk to people that have been in similar situations. But it was basically creating a life for myself, detaching from the outcome and just saying, yes, let's try it. Let's give it a try. And that ultimately has been carrying me this entire time. It hasn't been how much I make, although I thought in the beginning it was all about the money. So I was saying yes to everything. I had no boundaries. I had no understanding of the word no. I did not know that no was a complete sentence. My scarcity mindset kept me saying yes to everything and thinking that if I said no, that I would lose out on all of my business. When in actuality, I was just burning myself out, and I got burnt out fast. And I realized that's not the type of life or business that I want to run. I started to question, what is it that I do want to do? What do I even want to continue working in real estate? Do I still want to be a transaction coordinator? What is next? I had ultimately chosen to quit my job to take care of family, my grandma specifically. A year into being an entrepreneur and, running a business and trying to figure out what this life is all about, and eventually burning myself out, I realized that there has to be more to this than just pushing papers. I don't feel fulfilled. I'm exhausted. The whole point of this was to be more present for myself, for my family. And yes, I am so blessed to be able to wake up every day from the comfort of my home and not have to change my clothes, or I could still work in my pajamas. I could still work in the backyard. I can go to a park. I can go to a cafe. And all of that is one of the biggest perks of being able to work remotely and being able to work, being location independent. But in that first year, I still had that 9-to-5 mindset of show up, do the work, clock out. Show up, do the work, clock out. I wasn't present. And because I was taking on so much work and I was working by myself, I didn't know what scaling a business was. I didn't know that hiring help at a certain point, once you reach financial milestones, that it's smartest or best to start considering hiring an assistant or a team member. I wasn't prepared for any of that. I just was so oblivious to this business world that I was like, I need to make as much money as I can and just keep saving and have everything in my bank account. And honestly, the work was coming in so quickly and so rapidly that I didn't even really have time to look back at like what was going on and being able to enjoy the money I was making. I was just stacking, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was the best time for me financially in the last 5 years, was my first 2 years of business. But there was a price tag. The opportunity cost of choosing to invest all of your energy into one aspect of your life is that other areas will suffer. And it was my mental health. It was my health. It was my personal life, everything. I was making a great amount of money, but like I said, I was doing it so I could be present with my family. And after my grandma had passed away in 2019, I think that's when I really that's when the rug was pulled up from under me. And I really started to want more out of myself. I didn't know how to stop the machine that was running, with my transaction coordination business. I was starting to take on clients and lose clients because my head just wasn't focused. I, once again, was still doing way more than I could handle on my own, and I didn't have many resources or people in my network to reach out to, especially when I had just felt like I was betrayed by a company that I had been working with for almost half of my life at that point. I had a lot of trust issues, and I was scared to even ask for help, because I was scared that if I asked for help, it would be all taken away from me. And that's drastic, it is, but that was my reality at the time. And in these last 5 years, I've taken steps and I've made choices to benefit my mind, to not go to such extreme places, to know that there are less severe ways of thinking about making a decision and that not everything is going to be taken away from you. And if it is, so what, right? I know I'm capable of starting over. I know I'm capable of building from the ground up. It's scary. It scares me today. I feel like I'm in a place today as I record this episode, talking to this mic. I feel like I'm starting to enter another place and stage of my life with my career where I'm just in need of something more fulfillment, and providing others, sharing my knowledge with others in order to help them in their careers, And as I mentioned earlier, I always question, like, there has to be more to life than me just pushing these papers. There has to be more to this journey than me auditing files. And yes, it's amazing, it's beautiful, and I do get to make sure that people buying these homes and selling these homes are in compliance and that they can have a smooth transaction without worry today and in the future. But ultimately, I look back at these last 5 years and I wonder, and I'm here today wondering, what is the gift of quitting and what is next? Where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I serving? Who am I? What are my crutches? What are my distractions? What are my pains? What am I trying to heal? And I'm giving myself the grace to be curious, to wonder, to live in this space of unknown and find my footing or some sort of comfort in knowing that everything is still going to be okay, even when it feels like it's not, or when I'm scrambling because this month maybe I only had one closing or I have nothing in my pipeline. What am I going to do in those situations? Am I going to stop? Am I going to keep going? Am I going to exhaust all my options and take my own advice? What's next? What do I do? I'm glad I've hired a coach. I'm glad I have a network of like-minded people in my corner I could reach out to. Journaling every day. I'm going to be embarking in my therapy journey as well. There are a lot of gifts to quitting. And it doesn't necessarily mean, if your boss is a jerk, you should quit and figure it out from there. I mean, if the relationship is abusive and the person you're working with is violent or degrading you and breaking laws, has no moral code, absolutely. I think you need to get out of there. But there's a lot to process and peel back and redefine and restructure for yourself when you are in this place of solopreneurship or working from home. Something in you just shifts, for me at least. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but for me, there was a major shift that occurred, and I feel like 5 years later, I'm going through that shift again. There's so many unknown factors that I'm going through right now, and it is leaving me feeling a bit insecure. There are a lot of doubts, but I feel like I'm entering that space of a clean slate again, and it's up to me to keep going, to educate myself, to level up, elevate, do things that are scary, and to not allow my scarcity mindset to hold me back, or the opinions of others to hold me back, or the fears of failing or not having money hold me back. And just believing in that abundance, knowing that there are opportunities always coming my way. There's money always on the way. Money is here. The opportunities are here. And to not allow my self-sabotage, my inner saboteur, of avoiding things prevent me from achieving these greater purposes that I know are for me, that are already written for me. I know this podcast is bringing out a part of me that I've always wanted to showcase, have something like this. So it's important for me to listen when things are moving naturally and smoothly versus forcing things to happen. If I want to create a course, but there's so much resistance, or if I'm trying to grow my roster for transaction coordination business, but there's so much resistance and rejection, versus me doing this podcast comes naturally, it comes with ease. Booking people, meeting people is smooth and hardly any issues. I find myself choosing the more easeful route, whereas previous me would have tried and exhausted myself to the point of burnout, trying to get something that wasn't working to work. Whereas now it's like, well, whatever is working, let me invest more energy into that. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste anyone else's time. And I also don't want to miss out on any opportunities that can grow and sprout from this choice. So looking back at 5 years of this journey, the ups and downs, the financial highs and lows, if we're basing things off of numbers and monetarily, this is probably the least I've ever made in life, but the freest I've also felt. Yes, it's stressful, of course, but I find that always focusing on the fundamentals of life and going back to the basics is the best choice. Not overcomplicating my life, not trying to create problems for myself, or feeling inadequate because I don't have a certain amount of money in my bank account, or feeling inadequate because I don't own property, but yet I work in real estate. That is a real insecurity for myself, but it's not one that overshadows all the goodness that is coming my way and that I have created up until this point in my life. But ultimately, learning to accept enough, to know that, okay, I'm still eating, bills are paid, roof over my head, plenty of clothes, plenty of shoes that I'm actually trying to sell and get rid of and donate, but I'm covered. I'm safe. I felt very unsafe around money for many years. And I think that's where my scarcity mindset really took over, is because I just didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like, even when I had a lot, that it was enough. I was constantly chasing. I was constantly in this state of like, I need more, I need more, I need more, when I was ignoring what I had in front of me and making the best of what I had today. And it sounds cliche. I hope I'm not preaching or standing on my own soapbox, but I think the moment you realize that you are safe, even when maybe things are in the negative, financially, when you believe in the opportunities that are coming and focus your energy on chipping away at those, taking one step towards that direction versus thinking, oh man, this is it, this is over, I don't know what's going on. And I've been there, I have, but I find it's a lot better on the other side of like, okay, well, maybe financially I'm not going to make that much money this quarter, so what can I do the next quarter to guarantee that I don't have another terrible 3 months? And what big decisions, what is scaring me the most that I know can benefit me in the long term, in the long run? And that's why it always comes back to your why. I spent a lot of time last night reflecting on these last 5 years, trying to figure out what am I going to talk about on this episode. I'm honestly just freestyling right now. I have an outline in front of me, but it's not anything that I just want to read off a piece of paper. I really just want to talk from my heart and process with you all and live out this journey together. And if you can relate, let me know. I'd love to hear your stories. If you want to talk about your quitting story, bring it on. This is, we're moving towards the next 5 years, a decade. What the heck? So in the last few days leading up to this 5-year journey of I Quit, I realized that I haven't really updated my why in the last 3 years. So the first 2 years of my business, it was all about being there for my family, being present, being able to help and take my grandma to doctor's appointments and be there for my parents and things like that. And I was living it. I was fulfilled. I think everything that I stood for was valid and in place and happening. But something happened after my grandma passed away. 6 months later, maybe 9 months later, the pandemic hit. And now everyone is thrown off and nothing is stable. Everything is in the unknown once again. And at that point, I truly realized, looking back from 3 years ago, 2020 to today, 2023, I've been in survival mode the last 3 years. And I know I'm not the only one, fight or flight. And I feel like I've been fighting, but I also feel like I've been avoiding a lot. Avoiding the reality that maybe I don't want to be a transaction coordinator anymore. Maybe I don't want to necessarily be pushing papers all day, auditing files. It's what I'm good at. I'm not perfect, but it's what I know. It's safe. It's quote unquote easy. But I go back to questioning myself again of there has to be more to this than pushing paper, which is why the podcast was birthed, which is why I have YouTube, to allow me safe places to create, to express myself, to teach, to mentor, to eventually be able to coach people in real estate, in entrepreneurship, in business. When I think and do work in that space, I feel alive. Sitting here recording this podcast, I could do this all day. I can interview people all day, all night. It does not bother me. Do I get nervous? Yeah, of course, because some of these people I don't even know, I've never met. So yeah, talking to strangers can be nerve-wracking, but ultimately I know creating a platform, allowing people to share their stories, to inspire and empower anyone listening. And I thank all of you who are listening right now, especially if you've made it this far in the episode. I truly appreciate you. And I know your time is valuable. My time is valuable. But for you to be able to spend this much time with me once a week, twice a week, if you're in my TC community, then you know what it is and the journey we've been on together. But ultimately it comes back to my why. And I realized that I never really added or updated my why since I said I quit. Is my family still one of the reasons and why I do this? Absolutely. But now I don't know why I want to podcast or why I'm YouTubing or why I'm creating content or interviewing people. I know what I want to do, but why? I took a lot of time last night. It was the middle of the night. I was about to avoid it, self-sabotage, and say, okay, tomorrow we'll make a list of, why we want to do this. But I stuck to it. I said, no. I think I've been avoiding this for the last 3 years, and many of us can relate, with the pandemic. We were thrown into a mess and having to uncover who we are in this new space, in this new reality, in this new economy is heavy. And I feel like I've just had these heavy layers on top of me that I was wearing because it felt like they were supposed to be there. When in reality, it's like, nope, I don't need this fear. I don't need this shame. I don't need this embarrassment. I don't need this burden. I don't need all these other opinions. Who am I? What am I doing? What's next? Where can I take action? And I sat and wrote down a bunch of things as to why I want to do a podcast, or why I want to be in media, or why I want to have location independence, time freedom. I realized that so much of this has felt unaligned because I haven't strengthened my own why. And I'm glad I took that time last night to sit with myself, to write things down, to make it clear, to have a better understanding of where I am today. Does what I believe in 5 years ago still stand? What do I want to think about for the future? It's hard for me to think about the future because it's not in our control. None of this is in our control. But I do believe that I have power, and I want to honor that power by making decisions that will allow me a life that is me waking up every day and doing things I enjoy and having fun. I think a lot of us skip that part. It's okay to have fun doing work. The work's not ever going to stop. I think the pressure to retire is, honestly, it's overwhelming. So I don't even want to think about it. But if I can create a lifestyle for me in the next year to stretch for the next 5-10 years, that's amazing. I know the goals I want to achieve: home ownership. I want to travel the world more comfortably. But ultimately, it's being able to look myself in the mirror and say, you're doing it. You're in it. You're making the right decision. I am proud of you. Quitting my job was the first time I ever felt proud of myself. In 2018, I was 34. I went 34 years without ever telling myself that I was proud of me. And I had achieved some great things along the way from my childhood and on, but I always felt a lot of my decisions were based on what others thought of me, what others wanted from me, or things that came naturally to me. So I felt like I didn't really earn those, or I didn't really earn those achievements or those accolades. But it was something about clearing the chaos again and saying, I'm doing this for me and no one else. I don't care what the repercussions are. I don't care how big of a risk this is. I don't care where it leaves me. I need to do this for me. And I cried, I laughed, I celebrated. I felt the freest I'd ever felt in my life up until that point. And I take a deep breath because it was so rewarding to feel like I was in alignment with me for the first time in my life in 34 years. I'm going to be 39 this year. I just am grateful. I'm grateful for me. Like Snoop Dogg said in his speech when he got that star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And last but not least, I want to thank me. That's so important. We have to thank ourselves. Being proud of yourself doesn't have to be rooted in these grand decisions, these grand achievements. You don't have to win the Nobel Peace Prize to be proud of yourself. You could wake up every day and be proud of yourself. It's your choice. To wrap things up, I am grateful for this journey. Every day is a win. Every day is a blessing. And for anyone out there contemplating, should I quit my job? Should I shift my careers? If your gut and your intuition and your soul is speaking to you, I say yes. Impulse can sometimes cloud our judgment. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's circumstances are different. Would I do anything differently? No, not at all. I personally wouldn't. So for anyone out there in a similar situation to me, trying to get to that point where they want to start fresh with their careers, focus on you. Why do you want to do this? And be honest with yourself. Be brutally honest with yourself and don't hold back. Find out what's in your way, what's distracting you, what are your crutches, what are your biggest pains, and how can you heal yourself throughout this journey. I look back at 5 years and I'm still healing, wins and wounds from decades ago, yesterday. And I just realized it's a marathon, not a sprint. Shout out to Nipsey Hussle. The marathon truly does continue, but if you're committed and respect yourself, value who you are in this space, in this time, you will not have an issue continuing. Go back to the basics. You are in charge. You have a lot more power than you may give yourself credit for. Less is often more as well. Play just as hard, if not more, than you work, and that'll set you up for ultimate success. You don't have to plan out every single step. You simply just need to take that first step. I implore you, anyone out there looking for change in your life, looking for a new direction, looking for more fulfillment, it's already in you. You just have to open up, allow your skills and your talents and you to shine. So major thank you to everyone listening, to everyone that has supported me along this journey. It's still happening. We are still going. I feel like it's still the beginning. It still feels like day one. I can't believe 5 years have gone by. So thank you. If you want to support Transaction Care as a whole, you can go to transactioncare.com, join my TC community, and I just released merch to celebrate this joyous occasion. 5 years of I quit. I released and opened the doors to TC Care Package. It is my store, my online store for merchandise. Right now, there's one exclusive item up there. It will not last long. The limited number of t-shirts. On the front, it says Transaction Care. On the back, it says Care for Yourself, Care for Your Wealth. You know that's what I'm all about here on this podcast journey. Go to tccarepackage.com. Link will all be in the description below. Check it out. Purchase a shirt. Let me know what you think. If you want to be a guest on this podcast, I'm more than open to setting up a conversation. All of the info to reach me will be in the description of this podcast below. You can also go to transactioncare.com. It's my main hub. It's how to reach me. It's to hire me as a TC, to watch me on YouTube, to listen to this podcast, to buy merch, to schedule a meeting with me, all of that good stuff. Cheers to 5 years and cheers to what is ahead. I am fully embracing the unknown and let's do this together. So on that note, care for yourself, care for your wealth. Your time is worth it. Let's coordinate. Lilly out. Talk soon.